Welcome back everyone to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, we'll be focusing on the temperature and precipitation trends over the next 7 to 10 days and walk you through the tropical weather update at the end of today's video. Before we get into the video, make sure if you are not a subscriber to this channel to subscribe down below by hitting a button and you are in. You have all of these detailed weather breakdowns across North America. I cover southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics on this channel. And be sure to press the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out more than you know to get this weather information out to as many people as possible. So looking here at the weather alerts across the United States this morning, and we are seeing a large region with heat headlines from portions of Kansas, Missouri, southward across portions of the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley here. Wherever you see the orange, those are heat advisories, but the purples here, those are excessive heat warnings and even some red flag warnings across southwestern Oklahoma into north central Texas, where we actually do have some critical fire weather concerns over the next couple of days. So definitely take it easy out there with the heat, and also be noting that the fire weather risk is very elevated, if not critical, out here into north central Texas and southwestern Oklahoma. We need to take care of that as well. So looking here, weather pattern wise across the United States today, we have the heat in place across the southern plains here. That is that ridge of high pressure that is locked and loaded across those areas, but the northern periphery of that remains across the upper Midwest and down into the eastern Ohio Valley today. We start to break down the northern periphery of that ridge once we get into late this week on Friday, and that will push that 100-degree line ever so slightly further to the south as we get closer to this weekend. So let's walk you through the high temperatures here. Today, temperatures will be back into the triple digits from Kansas, southwestern Missouri, southbound here. So we're matching at 104 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, 108 for a high there in Wichita Falls, 107 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 100 in the Houston Metroplex. So it is a stifling hot day out there across the south, but into our northern areas where we have the northern periphery of that ridge, some cooler weather with some clouds and precipitation. From Iowa down into southern Illinois and northeastern Missouri, temperatures will be held down into the upper 70s to low 80s there. As we go into Thursday tomorrow, much of the same. The active pattern over the top, keeping temperatures suppressed into the 80s and 90s for the most part, but the triple digits, we're back to 108 there in Wichita Falls and 105 there in the DFW Metroplex on Thursday tomorrow. And even on Friday, we see more triple digit heat with that streak continuing across North Texas and Oklahoma as we go into Friday, with that 100-degree line trying to slowly shift from north to south across the Central Plains as we get into towards this weekend. And then speaking of the weekend, as we get to Saturday, Sunday, you can see that ridge begins to flatten out here. The center of the high pressure will be down here into West Texas, and we're going to see that expanding to portions of the Gulf Coast regions as we get into Saturday, Sunday this weekend. And then by early next week, we still have it hanging on here for the Lone Star State there in Texas, back across the southern Four Corners region, southern California, and then eastward toward the Gulf Coast as we go through that Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday time frame 1 week from today. So looking at high temperatures this upcoming weekend on Saturday, yeah, you guessed it, folks. We're into the triple digits yet again across Oklahoma, portions of Arkansas, getting into Texas here and Louisiana. But that triple digit line is not too far away from the Tulsa region here, or the Fort Smith or the Little Rock area as we go into Saturday. And as we go into Sunday and then into Monday, look at the cool weather moving down from Canada here. You have the upper 70s up here, beautiful weather across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes into New England. And then you see the cooler temperatures. I mean, folks, when is the last time we saw upper 80s for Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and even portions of northern Arkansas? We'll see that as we go into early next week on Monday, August 7th. And then that triple digit line gets very close to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Shreveport down here in Louisiana, and also down into Jackson, Mississippi, We may be getting briefly down into the upper 90s by Monday, and then that will be a nice welcome sight if we do reach that. Looking here at precipitation trends, a very nice complex of storms or two did blow up over the mid Mississippi Valley last night and into early this morning, producing lots of very heavy rain. We did see flood watches be issued from the local NWS National Weather Service offices near the St. Louis region and down in toward Paducah, Kentucky, and we still have those flood watches in place. Even some flood warnings and flash flood warnings do continue for northeastern and eastern Missouri as of this hour. So we're continuing to watch that. And the reason being is that upper level jet stream is very amplified, but over top of that ridge and bringing all the active weather from the desert southwest over the top here into the northern plains and then east southeast bound through the Midwest and into the Ohio Valley later through the week here. But then as we go through the weekend into early next week, going through a week from today on Wednesday, August 9th, you start to see a flatter jet stream. It's more zonal from west to east, from the Pacific through the contiguous United States and into the western Atlantic. And this, my friends, will actually pull the precipitation a little bit further to the south as we go into early next week. So we have to talk about severe weather. It's still summertime, so our late summer severe weather setups are still there. We have a slight risk of severe weather across central and southeastern Missouri today, parts of southwestern Illinois. That is the highest concern, mainly damaging winds and large hail, but the very heavy rainfall threat will be the main mode of severe weather, if you will, with flash flooding out there today. Otherwise, a couple marginal risks here and there across Utah, the front range of the Rockies into the central plains, or the upper Great Lakes region up here toward Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP today. We're watching for mainly, again, isolated damaging wind gusts to 60 miles per hour and some quarter-size hail. As we go into Thursday, still watching some marginally severe storms across the eastern side of the country from the Great Lakes down there to the Dixie Alley region. But the main concern will be back here with the level 2 out of 5, a slight risk back across western Nebraska, northeastern portions of Colorado into northwestern Kansas. Again, large hail and damaging winds will be the main mode here. Friday looks to be a bit more of a less busy day. So we're seeing maybe a marginal risk up here into New England, but the rest of the country here so far is quiet. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a marginal risk added somewhere in the Central Plains on Friday. Wouldn't shock me, but that would mainly be for some isolated wind damage and possibly some isolated large hail. Then we move to the weekend. We have the Storm Prediction Center maintains a 15% or a slight risk for severe weather across eastern Colorado, southern Nebraska, much of Kansas, southwestern Iowa, into northwestern Missouri. This will be an area to watch here because as we progress from Saturday even into Sunday, as it shifts east toward the Illinois Valley and the Ohio Valley, I wouldn't be shocked to see a slight risk introduced there as we go even into Sunday later on this upcoming weekend. So we have to watch the weekend severe weather forecast here. We're still several days away from this, so it could still change. It could go up or down in intensity. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. But in general, the ensemble guidance is pretty bullish with our northwest flow pattern over the top of that ridge. So underneath the ridge here, you're not going to see much, if any, rain at all. And you'll be lucky to see a drop of rain, especially the further south you go. So from the Four Corners region, especially from Arizona to New Mexico, Texas, and along the immediate Gulf Coast, and especially into Florida, it's going to be very dry through next Wednesday, August 9th. But over the top, like I mentioned, northwest flow, we're going to see storm complexes blowing up over here into Montana and Wyoming and parts of the Dakotas, into Nebraska, and then moving southeast through the Illinois Valley and down into the Tennessee Valley through next week. And then the GEFS ensemble guidance basically implies the same thing with more heavy rain setups, more severe weather setups through that very same area from the Dakotas down through the Illinois, Ohio, and Tennessee river valleys as we go through the middle of next week. And looking at the total rainfall accumulation with this setup, it looks impressive up here Across the northern high plains into southeastern Montana, the western Dakotas, there could be areas getting up to half a foot of rain, possibly 5, 6 inches of rain here. Then we'll see a couple inches of rain through much of the Midwest, the upper Midwest region, and then picking up with the rain intensity once we get down toward the St. Louis region, southern Illinois, and down into middle and eastern Tennessee. We could be seeing possibly up to 6 inches of rain all told from today through next Wednesday on August 9th. But you see the hole in the precipitation in a couple areas here across much of Texas, especially down toward the Rio Grande Valley, down here into southern Arizona. California largely looks very dry as we go through the next week. Parts of the Pacific Northwest looks pretty dry. Washington State down to Oregon, western Idaho looks pretty dry as well, and also pretty dry into southern Canada here from British Columbia over here through Saskatchewan and into Manitoba, especially the southern side of the provinces up there. Looks pretty dry through the next week. Now turning to the tropical weather update here, we have Hurricane Dora continuing to move across the eastern Pacific Ocean. You can see that right here on the satellite imagery, and it's going to intensify to a major hurricane, at least a Category 3, as we move into later on this evening or early tomorrow morning, and maintain hurricane status through the weekend and likely even into early next week. So looking at Hurricane Dora's intensity with all the models put together, there are some bullish models that get well into Category 4 strength. While that is possible, most of them are clustering up at a high-end Cat 3. So we're seeing that within the next 12 to 24 hours. That'll be the peak intensity. And then we'll slowly level the system off through a Cat 2, a Cat 1, and eventually back toward a tropical storm once we get towards portions of Hawaii as it gets closer. But then we're also watching another area of investigation. The National Hurricane Center has increased the odds to a 70% chance across the eastern Pacific, right near the Mexico coast here and up near portions of the southwestern Baja of California. We really have to watch this. This is closer to land and probably one of the closer areas we've had so far this year to watch, and it is concerning when you look at the sea surface temperatures, 30 plus degrees Celsius here. That equates to temperatures well into the 80s, if not getting into the low 90s out here. So very warm water temperatures. And you can see the next named storm here, if it develops by this weekend on Saturday, August 5th, would be named Eugene. And this could be very close to the coast there in Mexico, bringing more direct impacts with wave heights out there, stronger winds, and yes, some heavy rain with flooding. So we'll be watching that. And here's Dora way out here as a fish storm across the eastern Pacific. We'll have to watch this towards Hawaii as it continues to move westbound through next week, something to keep an eye on there. But across the North Atlantic, it is not really that exciting, honestly, folks. We have a very small tropical wave up here over the open waters, and that's really kind of moving away. In fact, the National Hurricane Center has decreased the odds ever so slightly every single day I've looked at this to a 10% chance, and this is really well east of the United States, well east here of the Bahamas and Bermuda. So it's really not that big of a deal. And yeah, we have the warm waters out here and really even in the Caribbean and Gulf. But when you have wind shear like we have here today, it's just not going to happen. You could have the warmest waters on Earth and the warmest waters ever. But if you have wind shear and you can't form any clouds to form really that many storms out here, let alone hurricanes, it's just not going to happen, folks. So we see that here today and really going through this weekend. Lots of wind shear in the North Atlantic. There is some weakness showing up in the Caribbean, but there's not really a tropical wave moving into that area. So even if we have a weakness in the wind shear, there's never really a tropical wave to speak of that is in that area. So that's some good news across the North Atlantic going through this weekend. We'll keep an eye on the tropics for you folks as we move ahead through the tropical weather season. But if you want additional weather forecast updates, including this video, make sure to hit the description down below the video. The link is there to Twitter. Follow me there at hweather420. I do update on that platform very frequently throughout the week, and I do appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you for all the support. Thank you for watching the entirety of today's video. If you made it this far, I appreciate you folks. Make sure to like this video and give it a thumbs up. Get this information out to as many people as possible. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Lots of great things happening on this channel over the next few months. We have lots of great videos, including my winter forecast for 2023 and 24 coming up in the next few weeks. Otherwise, leave a like and also subscribe like I mentioned. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday.